I'm joined by Down minor football coach Steven Poacher. The government confirmed last night that the GAA senior inter-county game can proceed during level 5, but none of the underage games. Now, you were involved with the Down footballers. You've Fermanagh and Brewster Park this weekend, but that's now gone. And we've even seen Tipperary play Clare in the Munster under 20 championship on Monday, gone. So can you talk to me, like, when did you find out that your game this Saturday, which is, everyone's been talking about, you were even training last night. When did you find out about this?
Yeah, listen, Shane, it's absolutely it's just a devastating blow for everyone. Particularly for the young lads. We found out obviously early this morning. We found out through social media. RTGA released a tweet. It was news to me. I got up this morning, the phone's hopping. Before we come on air, phone calls, text messages. People just can't believe what has actually happened. When you consider the championship actually started last week. Meath played Dublin in the minor championship. And beat them quite comprehensively. We had actually played Meath in a challenge game. Meath will be very disappointed because the side there, it's not too often that you beat Dublin by 10 points, but Meath played last weekend, beat Dublin. Cavan played Monaghan, so it's not as if the minor championship hasn't started, Shane. The actual championship has started, so it just defies logic for me. We've 500, 600, 700 children sitting in a classroom 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, with poor ventilation, getting bussed into school, getting bussed out of school, eating together, sharing rooms, sharing toilets, walking about school together. But there's no provision being provided for these young people for sport. We're not allowed to play schools football. PE is so restricted because they're not allowed to bring in boots and outside equipment because they can't bring stuff into school, can't bring stuff out of school. And it's got the stage change for me where it's the whole thing is extremely contradictory. It's a crushing blow for our lads. It's regardless of the fact that whether we had a really good team or a decent team or a poor, doesn't matter. It's not about that. At this age, Shane, it's about development. It's about it's about young people getting football. It's about young people getting sport. It's about young people creating memories. And yes, we are in the middle of a pandemic and it is unheard of and we understand that. But what is the provision being provided, Shane, for sport for these young people? It's absolutely cruel. And during lockdown, we had a number of young lads during lockdown who, on different occasions, would have struggled mentally, who would have had mental issues, from a mental health point of view. And I can tell you this now for a fact across the country, this is going to crush a lot of young people, crush them.
And from your point of view, were you given any reason? Like you said, you just found it out in a news report. Was it just as simple as that, rug pulled under you, no excuses provided?
No excuses whatsoever, Shane. No one. That's what I'm saying. It's been so cloudy. The whole thing has been so contradictory. It's just madness. Like the club season ended, Shane, on the middle of September. There was still clubs, playing their county championships. Some counties, tiddled about and didn't get their county championships played. I think Carlow didn't get their senior final played. Obviously, county boards had enough time to play their club championships. I'm not suggesting that they didn't, but what amazed me was that county finals on a Sunday could go ahead with no changing rooms, with no buses, no nothing. But yet the following week, a senior inter-county team could use changing rooms, could use buses. It doesn't make sense. What's the difference in a week? It doesn't make sense. There's been so many actions, Shane, that nothing surprises me right now. Nothing really surprises me. But listen, it's disappointing. It's hugely disappointing. And there's for example, Dublin and Galway preparing for an All-Ireland under-20 final, All-Ireland under-20 football final, and the rug's just been pulled from under them. How will those counties be feeling? How will those young lads be feeling? People have got to remember, these are lads at 18, 19 years of age. We're dealing with lads at 15, 16 years of age. Sometimes these young lads, obviously I'm mature enough that I can handle it. It's a decision that's made. It'll hurt me for a day or two, but I'll probably end up accepting it. What else can I do? But for some of these young lads, they'll find it very, very difficult to get their heads around this, Shane, and listen, in general, outside of football and away from sport, I think we're in for some tough times because there's been no provision and there's been no emphasis on mental health. There's been no emphasis on keeping yourself fit and healthy during this pandemic. We're fortunate enough here that we're pushing our kids here. I'm pushing my children, from a fitness point of view, from getting active. We have a gymnastics coach I was telling you last night that comes on the Zoom and does a bit of gymnastics with them and things like that. We get them out in the garden, we'll make them, do bits and pieces during this whole pandemic. But where has the government advice been to sport and keeping yourself going and keeping yourself active? There's been none, absolutely none. It's new. It's the scaremongering and the social media has just been poison over the last few weeks. And I'm very concerned about the road we're going. I really am very concerned.
Absolutely. And a question then: how long have you been involved with this particular minor team for this season? Were you on to them throughout the entire lockdown during the summer? And what happens from here? I mean, presumably the final will be played at some stage. Well, presumably all these underage inter-county competitions will be finished at some point.
It's funny, Shane, because I've been involved with the county minors for over a year, and we've played one competitive game. It's unheard of. Like we played Derry in the Ulster Minor League back in March. In the Ulster Minor League, and it's madness because we've had no. It's we started back in last November, I think it was, up in our school in Newry and St Joseph's, and we had a training panel of about 50 lads, and they trained away, and they enjoyed the winter, and we had great crack, and we were building up a great spirit and a great camaraderie, and then obviously we had the Ulster Minor League came around, and we played our first game against Derry and won by 12 points. So technically, I think we were Ulster Minor League champions based on score difference from what I played in the league. But on a serious note, we've had one competitive game, and the lads were building nicely towards Fermanagh this Saturday night at Brewster Park. We're really looking forward to the game. We trained last night in Park Exeter. The lights were on. There was a great buzz. There was 35 lads there training at a socially distanced. Everything we did. There was no change. We've never been in a change room, Shane. Never been in a change room once. We've never done meetings. We've never had video analysis. We've never done any of that. Any meetings we've had have been through Zoom. And we've done everything to the letter of the law. The parents have been absolutely brilliant in this. The county board have been tremendous in their support and their help and their guidance. And it's just so frustrating. Like, it really is so frustrating.